It's moving day. Time for James and Jamila to leave their sunny tropical paradise for the rainy, cold upper Midwest. They met years ago when they both worked for Clearwater Southern. And though only Jamila remains there, her loyalty has paid off. She's been offered the opportunity of a lifetime, if only she's willing to relocate to Superior. Business is booming in Superior, and Clearwater Southern has been the beneficiary. And now they've turned their eyes here, and nobody can seem to figure out why. What makes this place so special? Is it the old-growth forests? The small town that so many wouldn't even know exists? The Carp River, aptly named, or so many locals say? Or is it the natural harbor on Lake Superior? Well, rumor has it that it's the Porkies. Rumor has it that Johnson Aggregates has had a team of geologists doing a bit of mineral exploration and that they found some copper ore. And rumor has it that they plan on opening a huge mine in the area to exploit all of that copper. Copper that they can refine and then send to Detroit to build EVs. And maybe that's why Clearwater Southern wants to set up shop here. Maybe they want to be the ones to ship the copper to Detroit. Maybe they already have a deal in place. Whatever the case, Jamila has been offered the opportunity to manage a cargo terminal and rail yard here in Bend Superior. And until it's done, she's the project manager, something that's a bit of a dream come true for her. And for all of her success and opportunity, her husband James is less sure of how to feel about the move. What is he going to do in Magnolia County? We're going to find out. But first, we've got to get to know their new home by building it. So without any further ado, let's jump right in. Before I lay a single road, I like to take inventory of the site that I'm working with. The very first thing that jumps out to me is the highway network that's running through these tiles. And along those roads, we can see that there are some utilities available to us. We've got water and sewer right here, and we've got power over here. Now I am curious about the terrain. You can see that it appears that there's some elevation here. If we go into our roads menu and click on our contour lines, we can see that indeed there is some terrain to work with. And right here, we see that there's some fingers of hills kind of projecting out. So we aren't going to want to cut a grid up there, for instance. So these are design considerations that we're going to need to think about as we're laying out our roadway network. The other one is the wind directionality, so that we're not placing our industrial zones where they're inappropriate. And what I can see here is that the wind appears to be cutting this way. That means that we wouldn't want to necessarily put industrial along the coast. If we were to do that, we would blow all of that pollution back into our city. We may actually want to put it off in the side. This is kind of a weird spot, but this might be the most appropriate place for our starter industry. And that's about all that we can look at. We can't look at our natural resources or anything like that. But because I built this map, I can tell you it's chock full of them. We don't need to worry about imposing on our resources all that much. So let's begin by converting a portion of this highway to be a local road. And this is, in my opinion, the most natural place for development. It would be along the water. You would think that maybe in the past, this was a trading hub, and this is where development would have initially occurred. So I'm just gonna use the replace tool to upgrade this, and then we need to think about our grid size. And I've been giving this a lot of thought, and I think I wanna go about 100 by 140, and then I'm gonna turn off a bunch of toggles that I don't need. So we'll start out with nothing. And I know I want to snap to existing geometry, that's the road itself, and then the cell length, because I know that I want to not go half cell lengths, for instance. I want to have a full cell. Then I want to snap to 90-degree angles so that we can have a nice tight grid. And finally, I want to snap to the zoning grid. So this will give me the ability to create a perfect grid. And look at that, perfect grid. Now, I often like to overshoot my grids. I think it makes it a little bit easier to make sure that it's perfect. And you can see that this is close, but there are some oddities going on here. We're not completely straight. So I'm going to get rid of this road here and this one here. And we'll just redraw this one in. And I had to back this out a little ways. It was conflicting with this. Now I want to try something different. I want to go and use the grid tool. And this is a tool that I am not always in love with, but I think that we might be able to get it to work. So I'm going to look on the side and I want to hit that 104 meters. And this is perfect. Let's redo this little bit right here and see if that resolves our issues that we had here. Oh, just beautiful. Now I don't want to just continue this grid all the way back. I want to find the base of this bluff right here. So I think that we will have a diagonal road that just cuts across here. One thing I do want to do is change where this highway cuts through the city. So we could reconnect this right here, reestablish that. My concern is that we're just going to have vehicles plowing through the city at 55 miles per hour like they were on the highway, at least in reality. So what sometimes you'll see in small communities like this is a deviation of the highway. So what I want to do is actually pull this out. So we'll go about a half a block, and then I'm going to back the highway out just a bit, and then we'll use our curved road tool with our guidelines on. And I just want to meet up right here. So the point of this is that this right here will now be our main street, and you won't have that direct line of sight to the other end of the highway. Now for this, I do want to prioritize the movement to the freeway. So I think that we will basically have a curve right here and a roundabout right about there. And then I'm giving myself these roads as guidelines because I'm going to use the curved road tool, click right here, curve right into here. And then we'll get rid of these guides, and then we'll convert Aspen Street into a 4-lane arterial going all the way through here. And though it would be cleaner to just take and make one side of this road wider, I think we're going to center this. So to center it, I'm turning off snapping to zoning cell length, and you can just hold it all the way back. And that's going to break our grid up considerably. Don't worry about that. I think I've got an idea. And now we've got to clean up some of these other edges. And what we're going to do here is, again, try to do some trickery to get this to look nice. So I'm going to upgrade this right here. I'm going to turn off snap to zoning cell length and snap to existing geometry because I want to eyeball this. And I'll turn snap to existing geometry back on so I can reverse this. Basically, what I'm trying to do is deprioritize certain movements, and I want to prioritize the through movement. And right here, eventually, when we have our road tools, what I will do is change the directionality. Right now, we're kind of stuck with this bit of messiness, but that'll be the very first thing that we unlock. So I like that. And we can decorate in here and do something special in this area as well. Now, I extended this road just a bit for the sake of road naming. You have probably experienced this if you're playing City Skylines 2. Road names do not play nicely in this game. I think that it's actually pretty frustrating, but we can work around it. We just have to have stubs. So here's an example. So Sheffield Street is currently looping around and doing bluntly kind of stupid things. So we'll just extend a stub right here, and maybe we'll build something on there, maybe not. But now it's Oak Street and it ends right here, and Sheffield Street is now doing stupid things right here. So we can do small little stubs like this and control our road naming. And now we have Belmont Street, a much better name anyway. Love that. Now I want to plan for one more thing before we start connecting up our utilities and zoning. And that is back here, we've got to get to this power. So I think that this is going to be our little industrial district to start with anyway. So I'm going to run a road in between these two bluffs, and then we'll need to find a nice place to join right here. Now, because this is an industrial area, I don't think I want that sharp of a turn. So I'll just gentle it up by adding a couple of guidelines, getting rid of those, and then using the curved road tool to join these up. And that's just more suitable for trucks. I want to get utilities connected by adding a transformer so we can convert our high voltage power into low voltage power. So we'll grab our transformer station out of the power menu, hit I so we can actually see what we're doing, and then we'll turn our contours back on because, of course, we got to respect our topography. And I'm noticing a couple things. There's a little pad right there where it almost seems like the power line should be lining up. So I'm going to add this right here. I want to snap to the side of the building. Now, one of the things that we're going to need to think about is this right now is a gigantic cul-de-sac. Eventually, we'll need to find another way in and out of here, but that is going to be a limitation of our terrain on this map. There will be more cul-de-sacs than I'm normally comfortable with, and that's the geography of this area. And if you can't avoid it, it is what it is at that point. You're going to have to do what you have to do. We now have power. We need water as well. This is something that when I was designing the map, I really wanted. It's really strange to me that we didn't have any maps that had water and sewer built in. So I added that right here, and I think it's going to be great, at least in the very beginning, because we won't have to pollute our river, which is really something that's really special about this community. You wouldn't want to pollute that. At least not like that. If you're going to pollute it, there are lots of ways that people like to pollute the rivers, and that's not the one. And then finally, let's finish up those last couple of blocks that we have over here. now that we have our layout in place, let's move on to our zoning. Most of this to begin is going to be single family homes, but I want to be deliberate about this because we've got a couple of constraints. The first one is our zoning grid is broken up here. And the only way that we can fix that is by having some of our homes in place. So I think we'll place a couple of these. And I actually did something I already don't like. I want these to line up this way, all of the homes to line up this way. So we are going to very deliberately leave a 2-unit gap on the sides. And now that these are zoning in, I can fix the zoning on our main drag. So we're going to use our paths. And the only thing I really care about is snapping to the side of a building. And we'll want to do the exact same thing on this side of the road. So I will once again run a couple of homes here. And once again, we'll call another mulligan because I zoned all the way across. We don't want to do that. Someday, I hope we have a zoning toggle again so that we can control that. But for the time being, we will make do with what we have. And I'm becoming a little less sure about this. We're going to need to keep an eye on this. I may want to take this. In fact, I'm just going to do it right now. I was looking at this as we were adding this, thinking that perhaps this should also be a 4-lane arterial. We're just going to upgrade that right now so that it doesn't disrupt our paths. There we go. That is much better. And now that we have that, we can start to zone along here. There's only one spot that's a little messed up, and I'm going to focus on that right away. So I'm going to add these temporary paths right here, and then we'll add a bit of commercial. So I'm going to add just a couple. We'll be very deliberate about these. And I'm going to call one more mulligan right here. I think we'll take this and make this another important Main Street type corridor going up here. So we'll try to focus our zoning along Fawn Street. Now we don't really have any commercial demand now that we've added these couple. So let's add in a bit of our industrial to this industrial area, at least back towards our transformer. So this is going to be a fairly dense community for a small town because of our terrain. We're not going to be able to just kind of sprawl out. We have this natural constraint. So that is going to mean that the development pattern here is maybe a little bit more dense than you'd expect. And now I want to add a bunch of residential once again. Again, we're going to be very deliberate about this. And I think along here, I want to try to find a nice balance. I'm going to try to make this look as clean as it can. So I'm going to run these back 4 units, and then we'll do 4 units here as well. We'll go all the way along. So it's nice and clean and deliberate. So it looks like there are lot sizes that are consistent. Now our commercial demand is through the roof, which means that we can finally start to fill in Main Street. And now we're at a spot where I just think we need to let things fill in just a little bit. And a month has passed and we've reached milestone 1 tiny village. So we get a bunch of money, which is helpful. Never going to turn down money. We get 1 development point, which we're going to use immediately. And then we have a couple of tiles that we can purchase. Let's see what's in our milestone menu. We have statistics now, medium density row housing, which I'm really excited to see. And then a whole bunch of road options, which we probably shouldn't use, like the asymmetric 5-lane road. Maybe actually there could be a reason why we use that. But the 4-lane one-way and the 5-lane one-way, no, we should not be using that at all. We also have clinics, cemeteries, garbage management, and landfills, and that means that these are required. So we're going to have to give that some thought. The very first thing that I want to do, though, is use our development point, and I want to purchase the advanced road services. You know, I'm torn. Part of me wants to go into here and purchase the crematorium instead, but I really want the advanced road services. So I think we're going to try to hold off and not build any death care. We're going to see how that works because I really would rather control our road directionality. So that's not a decision that I would ever want my local city government to make, but that's the one that we're making. All right. So the reason why we wanted to do that is this is really bugging me. So we've got a whole bunch of stoplights and I was watching this and basically because this is all signalized, no one's taking this road. They're saying Main Street stinks. We're going to go on Sheffield Street instead. So I want to reverse that. We're gonna go into our road services, which is now available to us, and we will turn off lights along this entire corridor. So it's just as simple as going into this menu, right mouse clicking wherever we see the lights. Kidding. It says no, you're not doing that. And maybe it's this? Yeah, it was the path. That is really bizarre. So we just won't go quite so hard in the path, and that will do the trick for us. So as I look at this, I see one oddity. I think that we're gonna wanna take this and make this the asymmetric, and that'll give us proper lane math through here. And I want this to look nice. So I'm gonna try to first look at the sidewalk to make sure that the sidewalk looks good. And then I'm gonna turn on snap to existing geometry and try to get our lanes correct, which means going this way. And then once again, I'm gonna slide this around to try to make it look as good as I can. And I think we'll just roll with that. It'll be fine. I wanna get rid of some crossings through here. So for instance, this crossing I don't think is great. This one too. Yeah, we're gonna get rid of all of them. So along this bend, no crossings. And now I wanna remove all the signals along here. So just right mouse clicking as I see the signals. I would love to have more control over this, but this does add a yield sign on the minor streets that are crossing the local streets that are meeting up at this arterial. So it's not the end of the world for me to go through here and just remove those. And then on Sheffield Street, I want to make this super unattractive. So I'll add 4-way stops all the way up and down here. And hopefully that adds a bit of friction that makes vehicles want to go down Main Street. Now, interestingly, Sheffield wraps around. It's going to be fine. I'm just going to ignore it. I'm just going to ignore it. Now, I want to return to Main Street because we can add a whole bunch of row homes, and we'll just go up and down here, just adding a couple here and there to add a bit of variety to these uses. I think it's really nice to mix things in like this. This is our Main Street corridor. It's where you'd expect to see a variety of uses, not just commercial all the way up and down here. Now, one thing I am not loving is it looks like we have a lot of the exact same buildings up and down here. Like, oh, look at that. We're in potato mode. Potato mode. So obviously there are bugs in City Skylines 2 at this current time, and there is a way to fix this. The way that I found is I just go into my options under graphics, advanced settings. I go to the very bottom and I change this MIP bias. I just bump it up for a moment, which takes the texture quality down to medium. And then I take this down again, which takes me back to high, and it rebuilds the textures. And if I do that once, it seems like I don't have to do it again the rest of my play session. So it's one of those things, And I think once again, we're just gonna return to adding a whole bunch of this zoning all up and down here. Now, before we zone anything else in, we need to start taking care of our healthcare and our garbage management. I think we're gonna add a clinic, maybe in this area. We'll start to have some of our city services. I'm gonna remove that path, and we could place this right along Main Street, but I don't think I want all of those vehicles loading on Main if I can avoid it. So I'm gonna turn off snapping to the sides of the road to see if I can fit this in by moving it around. I can't. Because of what I did to Main Street, all of those nasty things I did to Main Street. It's not gonna work. So I'm gonna slightly nudge Belmont Street. So we'll upgrade this with nothing on, and I can just pull this over using the replace tool. And then we'll try to fit this in. And I'm even setting this back one full unit so that I can add some landscaping to the front of it. And then we will add our garbage management. So just a basic landfill, and we're gonna add that way back here. We're gonna need to get rid of some of this road though. It is in the way. And then I'm gonna run a road along the side here. I think we'll go with just this alleyway. And I will not lie, I didn't like the alleyway. So just did something like that to make it feel like there's more of a a purpose and need for this. And also, I think that the other city service that we should consider back here is maybe even a road maintenance depot. This is a map that has snow, and we know that these clear snow and traffic accidents. So we're going to add that back here as well. The thing about this is that this actually takes up a considerable amount of space. So maybe that won't work. Maybe we actually want to place this over here. So let's turn our snapping on once again. And I want to add a side street so that we're not loading all of these vehicles directly onto Bedford, which is really functioning as a collector at this point. So let's turn off the guidelines, and I'm just going to run a road right here. And then we'll take our road maintenance depot and place this along Elm Street. And I just want to double check this. So I know that this one has external buildings, or I thought that it did. It does not. So we're going to move this a little ways back, and that should be pretty good. And just like that, we've reached milestone 2, small village. A couple more development points, thank goodness, because we got to do something about the bodies. And then looking at our milestones, we now have the ability to adjust our taxation, some medium density housing, which we're absolutely going to place some of, and some schools. So we're going to need those. But I want to go into the development menu because we are going to purchase a crematorium. I want to do this because the crematorium's actually cheaper than a cemetery, and it's much smaller, and we don't have a lot of space. So let's continue our work along Main Street and continue to increase the density. And you can start to see it's starting to feel like a nice Main Street area. And now I think we want to add in some of our medium density housing. And the thing to keep in mind with these is that the buildings are as tall as the lot is large that you give them. So if I were to go and give this a, let's say, 5x5 parcel to work with, we're going to get this really tall building that is out of scale for our community, at least at this point in time. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to experiment a bit. We're going to call a couple mulligans, and look at this. That is considerably better. It is only a 2x3 building, but scale just makes a ton more sense for a community of this size. Now, one of the unfortunate things is I'm guessing it's not going to allow us to zone right here. It's fronting the street here. Not the end of the world. We can sneak a park here or something like that, but it's a thing to keep in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is that the row homes and the medium density housing are soaking up the exact same demand. This has always been kind of a curiosity of mine. And the main reason is, let's say we have this building right here. This is a 2x3 building, and we'll add in a 2x3 row home next to it. And while these are filling in, I'm going to add a bit more commercial along Main Street. And interesting, when we zoned at this size, for whatever reason, we got European assets, which is very interesting. I like the way that these look, so I'm going to leave them. But we've got these 2 row homes right here. This has 8 residents, 3 households right here, 3 households, 3 residents. So it's a bunch of single person families. And then right here, we've got 10 residents and 9 households. So the households is the thing to really think about. And we're really losing about 1/3 of them by having the row homes. Not a big deal, but I guess it's a consideration and an acknowledgement that just because they're both fulfilling medium density demand doesn't mean that they are necessarily doing it in the same way. So things to keep in mind. And now I want to think about our elementary school, and I think I want to plop that back here, but I want to set this back a little ways because it looks like we have enough room for another block or so. Now our zoning is a little bit off. There is a surefire way to fix this that I don't want to do. The surefire way being to completely get rid of this road and redraw it. I'm going to experiment though. And let's just see if we can straighten this by adding this temporarily. And that fixed all but this. Oh my goodness. Maybe we double tap right here. Nope, that's not fixing it. Yeah. Fixed it right up. Now, I did this because I want to place the school behind these blocks right here, and I think it should fit perfectly. So hit the I button and we can see, yeah, that couldn't really be any better. And then for all schools, I always add a playground. Why wouldn't you? And there we go. And I'm wondering if we can bring this down one more block. Oh my goodness, this will literally drive me insane. So what this tells me is this is the home of a future park. So we're going to leave it, we're going to walk away, and I'm going to try not to go crazy. We'll add in some more blocks right here. And again, I'm leaving those 2 units on the side with the idea that we'll have homes facing that way in the future. And in fact, we should go up and down some of these other streets where we haven't added these and just get them added. Now, unfortunately, I don't want Garnett Street to have zoning on it. So I'm going to get rid of this street temporarily like a crazy person, let these fill in, and then we'll add it back in. I probably should just ignore it and not be so uptight, but I am who I am. I can't help it. It just drives me crazy. I feel like all the homes should be facing the same direction. And if they're not going to be, it should be like this block where it's very purposefully facing this way. And it's just that order. You can see it just looks a ton better. Now, I am going to add a bit more commercial to fully flesh out this corridor right here. Although I am getting reluctant. We don't have parks unlocked yet, and that is something I want to think about and consider and work them in here in a way that is logical without demolishing a bunch of stuff. But at least we are kind of fully fleshing out this area so that if you lived in any of these blocks, you could walk to a business of some sort, get your hair cut, get a cup of coffee, get some gas, whatever the case may be. The nice thing is we can actually click on these and see what they are. Don't love the way that these look though. These are really auto-oriented, and we have these lovely row homes that are fronting the street, and then you get Nonsense Vintage, which looks like a convenience store and sells textiles, apparently. What is this one? This is a vehicle. Oh, it's one of those like used car dealers. But interestingly, there's no vehicles, so it's inside of here. Fascinating. And then this one which looks the same, is fast food. I'm more okay with that, but still not a great location for it. But reasonably, this is kind of mirroring real life. You know, with zoning, it's actually illegal for a city to specify, I don't want that particular use to arrive in this particular area if it's allowable within that use category. So reasonably, we have a really loose zoning code here, and it allows both fast food and car lots to appear in the same place, with apparently the exact same building form too. So no form-based code here to speak of. Now I am curious. We've got all of these buildings that look very similar. If I were just to get rid of some of these and allow this to come back as a larger building, then we get something that looks a little bit more suitable. And reasonably, this is a better design. Look at it. It's just, it's fronting the street. There's no parking right up front like these ones. So I probably will give this some more thought and consideration as we're filling these out and not be ashamed to play whack-a-mole. That said, we are going to need parking. We don't have enough development points for it right now. I believe it's 2 points. So we will need to think about that down the line. Now, we do need to think about our death care. I mentioned the crematorium. We paid for that, so we should definitely place it. So the upkeep of the crematorium is only $45,000 per month. I say only, it's actually quite a bit. It's $55,000 for the cemetery though. The cemetery also gives that well-being boost, which is nice. The crematorium doesn't do that, and it also contributes to air pollution, but reasonably, it's just a much smaller building, and I think it's a much more space efficient use. So we are going to need to think about our air quality. So I think we will place that maybe off to the side, maybe like right here. So this is on the side of the bluff. I'll give it a little bit of space, and that will get us to level 3, which will give us some of those development points that we need to unlock our parking lots. So that's great. A couple of tiles, and let's look at our progression panel. Oh, we get farming, we get stone mining, so we can get our aggregates going. We get firehouses and police stations. So all sorts of important things. And I do want to unlock the parking areas, especially in a small town like this. It's a consideration. It's a thing, and people really value it. So we will definitely place it, and that will allow us to get rid of some of the parking on Main Street anyway. So for whatever reason, it will allow me to front this parking lot onto Main Street, but not onto Fawn. I'm going to unlock this from the road, spin it around, and see if I can fit it myself. And it will allow me to do that. And that's just a better idea. Don't have uses that will attract cars fronting onto what is supposed to be a road prioritizing movement. I mean, reasonably, I'll probably get yelled at in the comments section for creating a strode, but I do think that that's what you might see in a town like this. And now we've got to place our police and fire as well. We've got this little complex of city services that we were talking about. We're going to place our police right back here. I'm wondering, can we, that's too wide. It's too wide. So I think we'll put this on Main Street, but on the non-arterial section of Main Street. And then we'll place our fire protection across the street from that if we can fit it. And this building expands within its footprint. Same thing with our police station, expands within its footprint. So we don't need to worry about sub buildings and things of that nature. And now I want to purchase some tiles. So the main idea here is that we don't really have room for the high school right now. And the only way that we're going to fit that in is by purchasing additional tiles. So I'm going to purchase these two right here. Now we'll come up with a fairly modest layout for this area. We're going to have a road that goes along the side of the coast right here. I don't want to say this too loudly, but I'm beginning to like the grid tool. It at least allows me to keep my zoning nice and tight. So I'm going to leave a lot of this unzoned for a while. I'm really planning out this area before building anything. We are going to place our high school right about here. Maybe we'll give it a little bit of space off to the side. And then we're going to build our stadium. I want to think about that. It's off the side. I want to back this out as far as I can get it so that we can have another block around here if we want. So we're going to buy one more tile. And by one, I mean two. I just really like the look of this when it's off like this. It feels like it's kind of a different complex. And then we'll extend back a couple of blocks. Now, we are going to need to find some sort of connection across here. And what I'm thinking is we are going to, so that this is not cul-de-sac, connect into our highway. And then over here, we need to find a way across the highway. And I think this time we're going to do something just slightly different. I don't want to just go right into the highway. We want to provide that mobility through here. So what I think we're going to do is create a bridge. But we are going to need to unlock our highways. So we'll temporarily sever that connection. Now we're going to pause it because I just severed our water and sewer. And then I'm going to slope down here. So right mouse clicking at the top height and then sloping up to this location. So this will be a nice location for a bridge right across here. We'll probably need to bring this up just a bit. And on second thought, I'm going to flatten this out and we'll just do something like this to get across here. Bring this up about 5 meters. We'll have our bridge, and then we're going to need to reestablish this angle. And I was hoping that I wouldn't need to completely remove this junction here, but I think I have to. Not a big deal, though. And there we go. Now we've got a bridge, a real nice bridge right through here, and we can connect this road straight through. And on second thought, I'm going to use the continuous tool for the first time. And we're going to basically send this up this way. And then we'll find this angle right here. And then we'll join that in like that. That's much better. I like that a lot more. So better solution in my opinion. Now let's get our water pipe reconnected. And it looks like it is, but it's actually not. And now we can finally run the city again. So everything should be operational. We do need to clean up a couple of things though. Right here, for instance, we need to convert this to a 2-lane, 2-way highway. And then we'll just soften some of our terrain around here. Yeah, that is much, much, much better. And then I just want to listen to our demand meters for just a little while. That means filling in the rest of our residential, filling in the rest of Main Street, and really making this place come to life. Now I think I want to do something a little bit different. I want to build in the hills. So we are going to grab our continuous tool and this end right here, and I want to send this up the side. And we're going to have a couple of cul-de-sacs up here. So one will be right there, and then I think we'll have another one coming off the side here. And we are going to do a bit of terrain work up in this area. So I want to make sure that this actually could be buildable. So we'll remove soil from here and push it to over here. And now for the real magic. So this is a suggestion from Christopher Hubble on Patreon, and it is such a good one. So we're going to get rid of all of our snap twos except for snap to existing geometry, 90s, and I think that that's about it. And I want to come and I want to snap to the center of the road here with the continuous tool. Then we'll come out at a 90-degree angle, click there, and then we can do our half circle. And we'll go 40 total here. And then we're snapping to the center, and then we come back around the other side, do the exact same thing, and we have a cul-de-sac bulb. And you can actually zone on it. So you could make this a different size. You could use your 1-lane roads, whatever you want to do, but this is a way to make it happen. Let's try to upgrade this to be the 1-lane road. And truthfully, with this 1-lane road, you get more homes, so I might go that route. So let's go through and we'll try some of our European style homes here. Now I'm gonna hit I. I don't want to encroach too much, so we'll go 5 units back for these. And I really want these to be consistent. So I'm gonna see if adding paths here will allow that. Yeah, it brings it back further. And now we should be able to simply correct our bulb. We'll extend a bit beyond it so that we can fix our terrain. That right there is some special stuff. That's good. I'm really pleased with that. That turned out better than I thought it was going to. Now we need to zone the rest of the road. And obviously we got to finish this one up here as well. I am going to leave the homes with a bit more space up here. And that's something that I would encourage you to do too. Just like think about the way your zoning lays out and give the homes some space when they are in areas where maybe the terrain's more challenging, or maybe when you're a little bit further out in the periphery. Don't be afraid to give your home some space. So did we respect the topography here? I don't know that I would be so bold as to say that, but I would say it looks pretty nice. And I don't know that you could tell that I did that without knowing. So we'll keep that between you and me. I think that this looks really good. I like the way that turned out. That looks very organic and natural. I love that. Now, along this road right here, Laurel Street, I think that we are going to add in a bit of commercial, really small stuff though. We'll go 2 units back, and I'm going to even try to extend this out a little bit further. We'll block the zoning right here. And we've reached milestone 4, which is the big one that I've been secretly waiting for all day. We're getting 4 more development points. We're getting 6 more tiles that we can unlock. But the real important thing is our district creation tool. Really excited about that. We get some policies for the first time, low rent housing, some offices, a whole bunch of different specialized industries, buses, parks. That's what I'm really waiting for. And we get a whole bunch of our pre-order unlocks, which is really exciting. And honestly, parks are what I really cared about unlocking because I wanted them before we do any detailing. But now that we have them, let's move on to our landscaping and detailing. Before we start detailing, I noticed that this SUV got into a car accident on the side of the highway. The police are over here. They were going from Duluth to Clearwater County, and apparently after the police check them out, they're good to go back. So good enough, I guess. Good enough. On your merry way. All right. So I really cared about the parks because it gives us the ability to add a bit of depth to this entire area, maybe clean up some of our zoning mistakes like we had over here, and just generally make this a better place to live. Because right now, though people are happy, there's a lack of entertainment. The only entertainment that's available is going out to a fast food restaurant or a bar. So we can diversify things by adding some parks. And we don't have a ton of them available to us right now, but we do have small parks, plazas, things of that nature, and of course, everyone's favorite, a dog park. And that's where we have to begin, a dog park. And I think we'll try to place that in a location that maybe everyone would want to meet at, maybe right about here. And I also want to place a park right here to try to clean up this zoning. This was a mistake that happened earlier. Maybe we can turn a lemon into some lemonade. I'm going to turn off all the snapping. And then we'll send this right about there. And we'll disrupt our zoning. Oh, that's going to bug me. And we'll see. Is this going to work for us? We can zone all the way around it. That's what I really cared about. And there we go. That is looking a ton cleaner in that area. Now, one of the areas I'm really interested in is this little area right here off Main Street, Sheffield Street. There, Main Street. And I think that we could fit a park in here. Otherwise, this is a really difficult lot to do anything with. So I want to go with one of these small plazas and see if I can fit that in. That's not going to work. But our small park that we just used probably will. And here's where we're going to need to shift our road once again. It looks like if we can get just a little bit of additional space, we can make this work. So we'll go into our replace tool and just shift things around. And I think we'll just take that building out right there. We'll call a little bit of a mulligan on that. And I will not lie, I lost myself here for just a moment and really got into detailing and had a lot of fun planting lots of bushes. And landscaping in city skylines too has really started to grow on me. There are still things that could be done to improve it, but I really enjoy placing all of these little bushes and things of that nature. So I'm getting more okay with it. I do want to clean up a couple of things right here though. I kind of wish we would have done this earlier, but I knew that I wanted to have some sort of tree growing in the terrace or the median here on Main Street. And if you're going to do that, you should probably do it up front so that the trees can grow, because it takes a while. So with these, all you have to do is go into your grassy terrace. For these collectors, if you want to have it in the median, you have to upgrade this to a different type of road. With this, I could do either side. It'll remove the parking. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm going to add the medians through here, because I actually want to have a grassy median. Now, the interesting thing about this, the number of conversations I've had with engineers who hate these things because they're difficult to maintain, it's a lot. But we're going with it anyway because I'm a planner and I like the way they look. So we're going to do it. And then we'll add trees in after the fact. And these do grow. They take a while. So they look like little baby trees right now. And they will continue to look like little baby trees for quite some time. But eventually they will grow up. And eventually they're going to be really the centerpiece of this area and a welcome addition when you come into town right here. And I like to zoom in here and understand why we're doing some of these things. And it's just a much nicer space now that we have this median through here with trees. It's going to make it feel a bit more connected with nature, I suppose. And now I think we need to do something to activate the waterfront. You have all of this water and no one's using it. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is a path. And then I want to add a variety of these small playgrounds around. These are wonderful assets. They are 2x2 and they fit basically anywhere. So if you got little gaps like this, it's the perfect thing to make any neighborhood a bit more lively. So we are going to call a little bit of a mulligan on something like this, where we've got this auto-oriented use right here. And I want to add a plaza. And then interestingly, while we put this plaza in, we zoned our first office And that is what we're going to fill in all of the gaps on Main Street with. All one of them. Okay, I thought I left more space than that, but I guess we could add a couple more along here. And then let's plant a whole bunch of trees. And I know this map already comes with a ton of trees, but as we've gone through and called some mulligans, some of those trees have disappeared. And I like to mix in some evergreens and some deciduous trees. So for every spruce and pine, we're going to certainly plant some hickory and some oak as well. And we'll use our place multiple tool to get these in place with a fairly strong brush strength and a fairly small brush size. So we'll maximize the amount of trees that we're placing. There we go. I was really torn on how to handle the path by the water, whether I wanted it to be a really thick forest that you get to see the water when you go on the path, or if I wanted it to be really manicured. And I decided to go for the forest. I want this to feel like we've carved into the forest to create this city, carved into the forest to have these paths, carved into the forest for everything. And where we have taken down the forest, we are replacing it. Now, I'm going to be honest and say that I'm having a ton of fun, and I think I could just keep going all day. But at some point, you just got to step back, take inventory of what you've done, and have a brief city tour. And now that we've got our little town established, there's just two more things that we have to do. We've got to give this city a name. So we'll use our district creation tool for that. And we'll rename this Bend. And this is called Bend because we're right at the river bend like this. I just think it's the perfect name for this city. And then we need to find a home for our new residents. And I think we'll find a place tucked off in the side over here. And we have James Jones and Jamila Jones right there. And they're feeling neutral, which is a bit surprising considering they have a spacious home, an abundance of entertainment, and reliable health coverage, but apparently they're neutral. I'm going to say it's James' fault because he's not very happy that he's moved to Bend. So we'll have to improve his situation over time. And we're obviously going to follow this family. And I'm really feeling good about the little community that we've created, and I really hope that you've enjoyed this build. This has been a long time coming. I'm really excited to start a story-driven series and really happy that you're here with me. I really hope that you've enjoyed this. If you did, please consider hitting the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.